Hello, and welcome to 70 Years, 70 Muppets, a Muppet fan podcast brought to you by toughpigs.com. This is the podcast where we celebrate the Muppets' 70th anniversary with 70 straight weeks of spotlights on our favorite Muppet characters, from the most popular to the most obscure. I am this week's host, Katilyn, and the Muppets of the week are Statler and Waldorf, aka those two old guys in the balcony. They were originally performed by Richard Hunt and Jim Henson, respectively, designed and built by Bonnie Erickson, and making their world debut in 1975 on The Muppet Show, Sex and Violence. Joining me today to discuss these infamous interrupters is the best heckler I know, and a
Are they
member.
actually AKA'd as that?
A lot of people know them as I explained this to your dad the other day that I was doing this podcast, and he's like, I don't know those guys. I'm like, they're the two old guys
Yeah,
in the balcony,
the
and
two
he's
old
like,
guys on the balcony.
and he's like,
That's an
oh
AKA.
yeah, that's an it, yeah.
Okay, all right.
So
Huh.
everybody knows.
Well, yeah, I mean, everybody knows them as the two, but that's not really an AKA.
It's also known as, and if you say the two old guys in the balcony, and people know who they are.
Okay, all right.
So as you can see, he is an infamous interrupter as well. This is Keith. Introduce yourself, Keith.
Hello, I'm an infamous interrupter, I suppose. I am on this podcast. I usually have a rule that I don't go on podcasts that would invite me onto the podcasts, but I mean, the standards have fallen, I will say, on
Well,
podcasts these days.
you're here,
That's
so
right.
you might as well make of it what you will.
That's right.
So, welcome to the podcast, Keith.
Thank you.
I have known you for over 20 years at this point, and I've sat in the back of classrooms, concerts, and even, sadly, children's performances and listened to your critical
especially
commentary.
especially children's performances. Yeah,
Those are pretty easy
they're mostly
targets.
children. I mean, yeah, it's not a difficult thing, frankly.
Honestly, you're aiming real low.
You have to find what you can in this world.
If you wish to heckle, just whatever's in front of you.
That's right. I mean, you have to find whatever joy you can, and at a children's performance of some sort, there's really not a lot of joy to be found. So you gotta bring what you got. You gotta play the cards you're dealt.
Yes, this is the critical commentary that people show up for when it comes to hecklers.
When
So
people want Muppets, they think let's bag on children's performances. I believe this. Yeah,
maybe that is why Statler and Waldorf went to the Muppet Show. They thought it would be easy pickings, because so many people think Muppets are for kids.
possible, entirely possible. Also possible that they were just written in. It's kind of hard to say.
They were, you think they were part of the script?
They were just put in there in the script. Yeah, I'm not sure because I'm not an
You think they're,
aficionado.
undercover. They're just part of the whole thing. They've been screwing with us for years, and we've fallen for it.
No, I don't think that.
Oh, okay. Well,
Okay.
moving on. So, my initial question here is, do you deny that you're a serial heckler, but it appears that you're just coming out swinging?
No, I own it. I think that it's important. I think that a heckler is a necessary part of an ecosystem. I think that the world is a tenuous and uncertain place, and that we have to again bring some kind of rock that we can hold on to, and one of those rocks is humor and comedy, right? And when you're watching something like a performance, or especially a children's performance or something, you have to find some good in that,
Well, some
right?
people would say there's joy in watching the youth.
Some people say lots of things, but they can be wrong.
Yeah, but especially when it's your own kid up on stage, you're supposed to feel
He in
joy at
particular that needs to be let known,
taking down a peg.
taken down a peg. It's really important. I think that's the most important. Frankly, I wasn't coming in here to say this, but I now am convinced that without heckling, children's performances serve no benefit really to
None.
anyone. None.
What if someone were to say that, it teaches the kids its confidence and
What is
how to
builds
practice in
confidence
preparation?
more than being heckled? you're not going to learn anything about confidence if people are just clapping fakely from the audience, because as a politeness, right? Until
Mm.
somebody tells you,
There's true confidence born of dodging tomatoes
yeah, oh,
and
yeah, for sure,
and
and
responding to.
carrying on with your lines, and maybe if you can't, it's maybe this isn't the work for you. However, I will say the tomato is it's overrated as a heckling instrument, right? I mean, it is, yes, it does cause a mess, but I bring eggs.
I mean, you could do some damage with like glitter bombs if you brought the egg shell like at Mardi Gras. You got the
They might
eggshells
think
with
I'm
the glitter
celebrating
inside.
though.
Oh, yeah, that wouldn't be good. I
Yeah,
mean,
they might think I'm enjoying it. It's like, let's get the glitter out here.
well, the janitor sure wouldn't be
It's
celebrating.
also not really my style for like I'm more of a verbal heckler.
Well, before we get into the expertise you're bringing to this episode, which clearly you've already demonstrated, I think it's important to emphasize that you are not here as a Muppet expert. In
No.
in fact, I'd characterize you as more of a Muppet blender. You know about Muppet and Henson Productions, but they exist in your brain as more of a puppet slurry than as individual dishes separated from each other on one of those little high school lunch trays. So, is this how you would characterize your Muppet knowledge?
Oh, I think they'd look better in a blender. Yeah. No, yeah, probably. Um, I am aware of Muppets, but I could not tell you a Muppet technically. Technically. I
You
think
were
I
your
described them once as
definition.
mechanical puppets.
Yes, I believe you are featured on an article I put together on how to define a Muppet, because
Right.
one of your favorite things to do is turn everything into acronyms.
Right. I didn't give it that much thought, but I did say mechanical puppet, which is apparently not true. Also, since then, I've learned that they're mostly not mechanical. They stuff a man up inside them.
No,
Well,
you were
part of a man.
confusing. You were confusing
Animatronics, I think,
Dark
but they're
Crystal.
not really. Yeah,
No.
and they're crystal. Yeah, not animatronics at all.
No, not okay. So just for the listeners' benefit, let's do a mini quiz here.
There are people in the crowd right now who are listening to this who are heckling me for not knowing what a Muppet is, and I do want to be clear that I heckle you for
Well,
knowing what a
it's
Muppet
it's
is.
honestly part of the interactive nature of the podcast. We want to turn people into hecklers by the end of the podcast. So if they're already doing it, then
I guess we
we're
can
halfway there.
right wrap it up.
It's just
Very good. Good
5
night.
minutes, no
Good
problem.
night, everyone. It was wonderful.
So
Are you
let's
keep
establish how little you know about the Muppets first.
sure.
Do you know which one of them is Statler and which one is Waldorf?
Well, we've AKA'd them as the two guys on the balcony. So I there's a large chinned one and a shorter headed one.
Sure.
And I do not know which one is which. I want to say Statler is one of them. Let's say large chin.
Very good. So
Yeah.
Statler has the longer, leaner body and face, and Waldorf is the rounder.
Okay, sure. Yeah, that's a way to classify them.
Yes, it
Big
is.
chin, short head. Yeah, I can see also long, lean, and short squat. Yeah,
And just to be clear, I did send him clips ahead of time where they do address each other. So, did you actually watch any of those clips that I sent?
I clicked one. I really enjoy. I enjoy wordplay. I enjoy puns. I enjoy that level of humor. I enjoy referential humor. Um, I think that that's really the selling point for them. And so I did enjoy the clip that I clicked, and I watched a couple of minutes of it. However, it was like a best of compilation, and so they were out of context. And
Mm.
a heckler that's not without the context, I didn't really because I have not seen early Muppet show. They have this whole show, but it's old. And so this old show, without the clips, I couldn't really tell what they were heckling, so I didn't know what they were riffing off of. Now, I did notice that earlier they seemed to have more goes at each other than at the show. So those were, I guess you would use it as a like an intermission between sets on the show. They'd just be like a filler. And the thing there is that they're going at each other. It's not necessarily referencing to the show in the clips that you sent me. Always. Sometimes it is. Sometimes they're responding exactly to what they just saw, but sometimes it's kind of freewheel, and then they'll go at each other for being old, right? Which I think is important, because I think that is an important quality of hecklers. Incidentally, I think we're going to get to this in a bit, but you also sent me like a whole prepared interview thing. Did not read it, so. Yeah, I think we get to it in a bit, but I think it's important that the heckler should be also self-deferential, right? You can't, or not deferential, deprecating, because you should defer to yourself always, though. Always just do what you think.
Building that confidence we were
That's
talking
building that
about.
confidence, yeah. But no, I think self-deprecating is important, because if you have anything as a golden cow, including yourself, you're sunk, right? In that kind of finding the humor and everything. Like, nothing can be sacred, even yourself, because if you take umbrage to somebody making fun of you, how do you get off, sir? Anyway,
Well, there were moments when Statler and Waldorf did come down from the balcony where they would perform, a song of their own,
don't tell me that ruins it for
and
me, actually.
even in one episode, they ran the whole show. That would be the
And
the
they
Hal
did
Linden
some kind of
episode.
sex and violence.
So one of the original pilots for The Muppet Show was called The Muppet Show Sex and Violence. And in that one, they're kind of just two guys sitting at home swirling brandy around.
Yeah, I like that.
Snifter.
I'm into brandy and a snifter.
Yeah.
Is
And
that where they're old, though? Is that like they're very, very old and at home, and they're like, maybe one of them dies? I don't know. I clicked something.
yeah, I don't think you clicked much because I
No.
also included some clips where they were responding to back and forth from the stage to the audience. You
I did. Yeah, I didn't. Which is a shame, honestly, because I really enjoy their work.
know. Yes, I can tell. I can tell. But so you think that do they work on the show? Do you think that they have a place there? Would
If
it
I'm
have
totally honest, they're the glue that holds the entire show together. I watch the Muppet Show and I wait for a breath of fresh air, a little sidebar with Statler and Waldorf to kind of find anything enjoyable whatsoever.
well, and just going back to what you were saying, being self-deprecating, that is the same performers essentially trashing their own material.
Yeah, I mean they should.
Or they could have just made it better.
Yeah, should have just made it better. I don't know. I think this is an easy way out. You've changed my mind again. Statler and Waldorf are just a easy way for them to kind of lampshade the ridiculousness of their own work, and
They're
the
just
result.
a
It's a
cog in the
cover.
machine.
Yeah,
Exactly.
they're just honestly just write better material. Just make it funny on its own, and then you don't need to put these guys in here.
They were
Oh
they were they
well,
were playing both sides. They were hedging their bets.
just hedging their bets. It's really it's a shame.
That way
I
they
no
always come out
longer.
on top.
Right. All right. I'm over it. I'm over Statler and
All
Waldorf
right.
for
That's
new
fine. We're done talking about Muppets.
new
Now,
interview.
so the real reason I
Are we?
brought
Was there only one question you had to establish how little I know about Muppets? And I got it right.
I was gonna say, did it
I'm
not
I'm
cover?
100% right now. Yeah. I mean, actually, I've established myself more or less as an expert. 100% of the questions I've been asked, I've gotten correct.
So why I really brought you on today is to give our listeners a little advice and insight into what it takes to be a heckler. It's not easy.
No.
I mean, you got to heckle your own kid, so like that might be hard for
Correct.
some
I
people.
think that there's a lot of definitions involved. I haven't read any of them. I don't know anything. I would say heckling is just something I sort of do in order, because my brain doesn't turn off, and I have a need sometimes to expurgate the thoughts out loud to whoever is unfortunate enough to be sitting next to me, and they might be trying to enjoy the show, but I am riffing in my head at all times, and so I have to tell them the riffs. That's pretty much how it goes. I feel like a lot of the art of heckling these days has been lost in the era of social media, right? Because you would just blast your thoughts out onto the Bird app or Blueski or something like that. So I think that there's like an area in the heckling ecosystem now that is filled by live tweeting, right? And you're watching something and you can just riff on it straight into the thing. So it's no longer the contact sport it once was, right? Now it's a little bit digitized, but that's just development. That's just how things move.
Well, I have a question here about
Yeah,
digital heckling. You know,
yeah, live tweeting, I guess,
what
of
some might call trolling even, because there's one thing about there's live tweeting, which is just your reaction, and some that reaction can be positive or
right.
negative.
And I think there's so an interesting thing. I know there are clips. Certainly, I've seen Statler and Waldorf at times interrupt the show in a way that is intrusive and responded to then by the actors. And I before anyone thinks I'm a monster here,
Too
I
late.
usually, unless it's like a children's performance, I'm usually heckling quietly, low key to the person next to me. Now at a child's performance, I'm letting it rip. Learn your lines, bozo, whatever it is, right?
Louder than the actual kids on
For
stage.
sure, I want to make sure the kids hear me. But at a any kind of like adult, these are professionals. I'm not trying to yuck anybody's yum. Maybe somebody's liking whatever the nutcracker suite or something like that, but frankly I think their performances are rigid. I think they lack a fluidity of movement. The nutcracker in particular, usually that actor, he's stiff as a board. It's nonsense.
He's method
So
acting. He is a
they're
nutcracker.
just no good. Yeah, I mean, you think he's acting like a nut? Anyway, moving on. Yeah, these guys are professionals, right? And I don't go around usually interrupting professional performances. And I think anymore that leans into like hooliganism, right? I feel like that's sort of something you would do at a soccer game, right? Than a performance, a theatrical performance, or something like that. Now, movies where there's nobody there to interrupt and it's just a screen, you let it loud, you let it rip, you let everyone in that theater know what you think.
Well, so that's another aspect of the digital heckling because, does anonymity change the game?
If you are not willing to stand by what you're saying as a riff, you're probably not that funny, and therefore maybe stick to the trolling, something like that. Now, I will say I don't think that trolls are hecklers. I think that trolling is trying to bait a response usually. I think a lot of the sport in heckling is that the person you're heckling is not supposed to break. Like if they break, you've won. And trolling, you're trying to kind of get like a prolonged reaction. You want to spin somebody up and really, really get them to go. I've never been great at the trolling thing. It's not an art form I've pursued. Whereas heckling, I feel like the idea is to try to get the person to break if you're doing it out loud to a person, or otherwise you're just trying to add some levity to what is otherwise a droll and hateful children's performance or seasonal Christmas song concert or
The
whatever.
two performances
Joyless.
Keith knows about,
Those
the
are the two.
Nutcracker and children's recitals.
Those
There's
are the only. And so heckling, there's an important place. I feel like in a healthy engagement of the audience.
well, so now you're saying that Statler and Waldorf were pivotal to
Yeah,
if they
mandatory.
hadn't,
The only thing worth watching on the show. They told me what I was
but
supposed
if
to
they'd made
think
better
and feel,
material, then they wouldn't have been necessary. But you're saying
but they
that's
didn't make better material. I don't, and I'm not sure they could have.
well, so what is the art of a heckle? What key aspects go into a
I
good
think that
heckle then?
heckling is about honesty. I think it's about observation. There's a lot of observational humor in a heckle, in that you're observing something and realizing there's no humor, so you have to add it. There's certainly a engagement. There's without an audience, there's no performance, and so a heckler is an engagement. It's a dialogue. It's a conversation between the audience and the show. That's important. I think, in particular, within the context of the Muppet Show with Statler and Waldorf, the heckling involved here is, like I said earlier, it's lampshading. It's pointing out that yes, this is ridiculous, and that's okay. And I think that there is an important role. Like, not everybody in an audience can be the heckler, because then you just have a jeering crowd. And a jeering crowd is not heckling then at that point. That's a very like vaudevillian, sort of Shakespearean era. And we've moved on from that, I think, where there's, high and low performances, and anymore anything that's like live theater of any sort is considered a kind of high theater that you're supposed to like sit there and absorb it, right? But particularly, I think if you look at like Shakespeare, for example, that's not what the audience was intended to be by any means, right? A lot of Shakespeare is for the hoi polloi, right? It's not meant to be. I think the target audience is not kings and queens and polite society, right? It's a peanut gallery, right?
Sure. And
And
for those who don't know hoi polloi, though it is often confused for the aristocrats and higher ups, the hoi polloi is actually the general populace,
yeah, that's the thing.
the peasants.
The peasants, and so a lot of theater was for the peasants, and there was expected to be a bunch of ribaldry, right? It was anticipated that in theater this was for the common people, right? And so the heckling and that kind of thing, that ribaldry, was the expectation. And so I do think, especially with for example modern performances of like Shakespearean stuff and whatever other plays, I'm sure people do operas and stuff that I don't know why. I don't know why anyone does anything, but I do think that that's a more authentic experience, as having somebody heckling that. Frankly, truthfully, that's an honest and sincere position. Although in the modern era, that's not how those performances are done, and because that's not how those performances are done anymore, it is borderline rude, right? Which is why I tend to be more of a, not a silent heckler, but to my neighbors sort of heckler. But these are fundamentally ridiculous things, I think, and sometimes we should own that. And I do believe that Statler and Waldorf served a purpose within the show of allowing the audience to acknowledge that what they're watching is ridiculous and to accept that that's okay, right? I think a heckler is about leveling the field, recognizing that there are no the audience and the performers have to coexist for it to be a performance, right? Otherwise, it's not a. This got really philosophical. I didn't really actually plan that in any way, but here
I
we
mean,
are.
that is, these are your two modes, heckle and philosophy.
Right, and rarely the twain shall meet. So here we go.
Here we go on the Muppet
But
podcast.
on the
You're
Muppet
getting it
podcast,
for
these
real.
are, oh geez, yeah, this is the real shit. So the idea there is that the performance is like this gestalt of performer and audience and so on. Otherwise, it's like a recital. That's a different thing. So the heckler levels that field, right? The actors aren't sacred cows, but neither are the heckler, right? Cannot be holier than thou. It's not that the heckler can do it better. I definitely can't do it better. I watch dudes doing ballet and stuff, and like those dudes are ripped. They're in incredibly good shape. They're very well trained. They're very silly, and we have to be allowed to recognize that silliness. And so the heckler serves this important point of sort of underlining the absurdity of the whole of the human condition. If you might aspire to do anything in finding joy on this earth, right? Aspiring to be a heckler, aspiring to recognize that there is nothing sacred, including yourself, and that you can then try to find the humor in anything, because most things won't bring it with it, right? The Muppet Show, for example, just utterly dry and humorless. But when you really look, you can find that there is some humor, because like there's a guy what has his hand up another, like a frog's ass, And that's funny fundamentally, regardless of how sad this song is about rainbows or whatever.
So does to get us back on track, does heckling change depending on what's on stage or the mood you're in or the people you're with?
So yes, in that if it's actually already funny, you don't need it. Certainly the level of aggression, certainly the nuance, right? The familiarity. That's another thing. Is it heckling's a familiar material? I feel like you should be doing it with people. I think that a solo heckler is probably just a joyless curmudgeon, but a team of joyless curmudgeons, that's where love is found.
So going back to what a couple things we've already said, when is it okay to turn on your compatriot and heckle the heckler? Because you said solo heckling
Mandatory
is it's
from the
mandatory.
from the very beginning. You want to work with somebody that is on a team, but again, there can't be a sacred cow. Your partner in heckling cannot be immune. You have to be able to both give and take, because it's about finding the humor in everything, and that includes our own feeble. Especially just the concept of being a heckler is fundamentally ridiculous. It's stupid. It's childlike. Uh, it's not something I consciously do. It is something that I have to own that I am and that I do, right. And I do think that no, turning on your compatriot is very important. Very early on in the clips, that like in the first 30 or 40 seconds of the clips that you sent me, which is about as much as I watched. So towards the end for me, they're going at each other about being old, about being senile, about whatever. My greatest defense against being heckled myself is that I am the first. There's nobody who loathes myself more than me, and I'll be damned if anyone's out here gonna beat me at that. So,
So what
but I
you're
also
saying is
find myself fundamentally ridiculous. Yeah,
if your partner can't take the heckling, like they're just not cut out
they're
for
not cut
heckling.
out for it. They're not cut out
Yeah.
for it. They should probably try to enjoy the show as it is, or they can, try to do something productive with their lives. Because I think that's the thing. If they're not going to be part of it, if they're not able to take it as well as much as they give it, then they're just the audience at that point. They're not heckling fundamentally. They're not on the team. They didn't make the cut. So they're just a guy that has to listen to me too. Poor schmuck.
All right. So with all of this knowledge that you have imparted to us, how would you rate Statler and Waldorf as hecklers? What tier are
Iconic.
they?
They're icons.
Iconic.
Both as heckling icons, certainly as aspirational role models for myself. No, as hecklers, they're absolutely top tier.
Any final thoughts on heckling or Statler and Waldorf as
I probably will keep thinking about these things after the show's over. So
all right, if you have any
maybe not final thoughts for.
further thoughts
I
to
hope
send to the Muppet fandom, let me know and I'll get those
we'll
to
fire
the
them out
Discord.
there.
Sure.
No final thoughts. No, I think I talked about Shakespeare. I think I talked about Peanut Gallery. I think I talked about the importance of self-deprecation. I didn't plan to talk about any of those things, and I
Right, because you didn't plan anything at all.
no, right,
Oh.
yeah, yeah, I'm kind of proud of that actually. That's heckling shouldn't be planned. That's a thing we should add. It's a spontaneity thing. It's a form of observational humor that is improvisational, because it has to be in response to an authentic reaction. I think another reason why I'm pretty sure the Muppet Show is scripted. My final thoughts are that it is an improvisational sport, right? It is something that you should be doing in response to the world around you, and it's a constant engagement of the world around you. You shouldn't. They're going into an experience, and they're recognizing that it is both funny and frustrating, and they're voicing that, they're expressing that, and that is pure and that is real, and it comes from a deep place in the heart. And not everybody has the heart of a heckler. Certainly, we have to respect those that do. And Statler and Waldorf are the glue, in my opinion, that hold the show together, because they express something fundamentally human. Gonzo doesn't even know what he is. Kermit's a frog, I think. There's some kind of pig that they just let wander about, and there's rats all over the set. And if you, they're not going to teach you anything about being a human, right? But Statler and Waldorf can teach you that you need to look at the world, accept it as it is, and find the humor in it right there as it is. And that's also recognizing that the real schmuck in the whole scenario is always you. You're the guy who paid nothing to go to the show. And this is what you're doing with your time? Come on now. Right? Statler and Waldorf, they could be doing anything else. I mean, probably not, they're too old, but they could be. Yet they're still at this show. And that's, I think, the fundamental experience, right? Is that the heckler is heckling themselves just by being there, right? If I go to the Nutcracker and I don't enjoy ballet, who's the schmuck here, right? You yourself are also part of this whole experience that we call the world, right? And engaging with it so honestly and so improvisationally, not planning any of this, I think is a key part of heckling as a lifestyle, heckling as a way of being, heckling as a Tao, a Dharma, the Dharma of Statler and Waldorf, something I'm very interested in. Looking forward to the book when they get around to writing it.
Do you have anything you want to plug or any place you'd like people to find you heckling on the web should you like to be found? You can say no.
No, I all my numerous ops and haters out there already know where to find me. And if not, good.
All right, well, listeners, if you would like to contact Keith, you just message me on the Tough Pigs Discord, and I will make sure he receives all of your virtual tomatoes or eggs, since he.
Eggs, onions would be good. You
No, that's
really
just
hurt someone with an onion.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's perfect.
That brings us to the end of another Muppet podcast. Before we go, just remember that if you're going to heckle, bring a friend. Good night, everybody.
70 Years, 70 Muppets is a Muppet fan podcast presented by toughpigs.com, hosted by a whole myriad of people and edited by them as well. Produced by Jared Fairclough. The Muppet 70 logo used with permission by the Muppet Studio with thanks to Danny Iglesias, Frank Reich Snyder and Lee Slaughter. Don't forget to follow toughpigs.com on all social media platforms. You can support us by heading to patreon.com/toughpigs or buying a t-shirt at tpublic.com/toughpigs.
Or little, what do you call that? The stinger or whatever.
The sting's usually at the end.
It was the opposite of that then. The one at the beginning, the mouth. It's like a scorpion or the claws. The grabbers. Oh, grabber. I like that. If podcast is like a scorpion.